This is Radar for On the Radar Entertainment Blog, coming to another edition of movie reviews and observations. This will be number 87, getting close to 90 and to 100 eventually. So the first movie I watched was Midnight in the Switchgrass, and it's a very cliche thing. You're running an undercover operation, and the person in the undercover operation is at risk, and they're in trouble, and you got to go save them. But Bruce Willis goes, you know what? I've been doing these things for way too long. I'm pulling out of this, working for whatever it is, FBI, DEA, whatever government agency he works for. Megan Fox, though, is the one going undercover, and she's the one that's trying to get all of these prostitution and rapists and all this other stuff out of the way. But the movie is her and Emil Hirsch working together, a cop who's not, it's not even his, like, jurisdiction, but he's, like, feels responsible for this serial killer in a way. And, of course, the cliche thing is, well, the person undercover gets kidnapped, and Emil Hirsch's got to try to save her, or she's trying to save herself. And one of the positive things about this movie was Michael Beach was in there, playing a cop detective, and he's one of my favorite character actors. But this movie was 37 minutes, which is a positive, and so it wasn't too long, but it was horribly written, very cliche. I could say Megan Fox is beautiful but a bad actress, and that could sound sexist, but like, trust me, I've seen a lot of movies of Megan Fox the last couple of years where her acting is horrible, the writing's horrible, it's not believable whatsoever, like her leading this team saving kids from like the wild, the jungle, whatever. And Emil Hirsch he was okay in this movie. And again, Bruce Willis is continually be in these either straight to DVD movies or barely released in movie theaters where he's there for like 1 second. He's in the beginning, a little bit in the middle, then at the end. And I said I saw that movie Breach with him, and I've seen like a bunch of others. He's just trying to get the money just to be in all these movies. And for those who are fans of music, Machine Gun Kelly was one of these hoodlums in this movie for that. But yeah, do not waste your time with Midnight in the Switchgrass. There are better direct-to-DVD movies by Bruce Willis, okay? Then I watched The Unholy, and it was, again, not really well written and put together despite being based off a bestseller book. And another positive, and one only positive was, again, 97-minute horror film. They're usually not that long. And basically, it's a miracle that this blind or deaf or mute woman, in this case it's a mute deaf woman, whose only living relative is her uncle, who's like a pastor priest, and he is William Sadler, and people know him from Star Trek and other things. And then the doctor that works there, Katie Aselton, we know her from The League and Legion, just to name some shows. And there's some, and Carrie Eulis is one of the bishop priests and stuff, and the higher ups. Because I've seen this thing countless times in season 1 of Evil. Is it a miracle? Is it a curse? Is it a possession? Is it this? And it's a cliche thing, and they're trying to explain why she could talk and perform miracles and all these other things, and they all think it could be a religious thing, but then in the end, it's really a demon or a devil hiding as a religious thing. And the only reason why this movie was watchable was because Jeffrey Dean Morgan of countless movies and The Walking Dead is playing a disgraced journalist who makes things up, and he's really wants to help this girl and fix this stuff, and he really sold it, and he saved this movie from being a complete crap fest of a movie because of his acting skills and leading this movie. I was like going into it, like, yeah, I don't know if it's going to be good, and then I was right, it wasn't good, but at least Jeffrey Dean Morgan saved it. Then I watched The God Committee, which was a very boring movie that went back and forth between the past and the present and all these other things, because they're trying to figure out which patients deserve this heart transplant. And there's like the drug addict son whose father pays for the hospital, and all these other people, and they're going back and forth. And there are actors that I've seen before, like the lawyer priest. He's a character actor. I've seen him before. And Julia Stiles, I've seen her in countless movies. And Kelsey Grammer, we all know he got luck. He's been a pretty lucky actor in terms of being on Cheers and having his own show, Frasier, and popping into many movies, including the X-Men movies, and then fusional sitcoms, and he was in Proven Innocent recently, and Janine Garofalo from SNL was in this movie. So the positive things was, again, 97 minutes, big-time actors, but again, let's debate these things, and then let's go to the future and see how his life is going, and then I'm going to ruin it because it's a waste of time, is despite being this revolutionary guy in terms of like medicine and figuring out ways to avoid all the waiting for organ transplants, is that he needs one and then he dies. And I was like, okay, that was a waste. The movie ends, he dies, and it's such a waste of time because they're all playing God. That's why it's called the God Committee, and they're all trying to figure these things out. But it's just like, it was slowly moving for a 90-minute movie. So I'm like, wait, this is supposed to be a 90-minute movie? Why does it feel like it's a 2-hour-long drama of their blah, 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 jip, yip, yapping, talking, going around? Then Jacob's Wife, which they say is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, again, like other horror films, is in the 90-minute range. And it's an interesting plot, again, but it's similar to the Unholy, where it's got possession, and they don't know if it's like some vampire or devil or demonic thing. And it happens to be this woman is married to a minister, and her life is dull. But when she gets bitten and she starts doing all and loving blood and drinking blood and all this other stuff, her life gets better. And the movie is like her husband's trying to figure out how to save her. CM Punk plays one of the cops, so you get another celebrity from another world trying to act, and again, not good acting. And I just feel like whoever wrote this movie did a lot better job at the script, and these actors who I really don't know much about, like Barbara Crampton and Larry Fessenden, they did a good enough job in this movie that it was way better than watching The Unholy, because that was horribly written. That I would say this is a better horror film to watch. How does a wife of a minister become like possessed or a vampire, and how does he, fix it? So it's interesting enough to watch it. It just was, in my opinion, I don't think it was the best horror film. I wouldn't certify it fresh. I'd say it's an average movie. Then I watched The American Traitor, and it's about the case of Mildred Gillers, who acts as Sally, where she was putting on radio broadcasts. And for those who don't know, because it's not taught in the history books or in Holocaust courses, and it's not something that people probably under the age of 50 or 60 remember, because this woman died before I was born, is that the woman who plays her is like, okay, you do an okay job of being in this movie, Meta Williams, and then you got the Nazi propaganda guy who's a big-time role in this movie, and the lawyer who helps Al Pacino. But it's like, the movie is, if you're a diehard Al Pacino fan, and I kind of like the movie of him being a locksmith recently in terms of later in his life, that you'll like this, because he leads the whole film. He does the most talking. He's the lead lawyer. He plays a famous lawyer, and it's all about what he's doing for himself more than for her. And there's flashbacks that are interesting enough throughout the movie, but again, it's like it's an hour and 40-something minute movie, but it feels like it drags on. I am a fan of them taking historical events and trying to make movies and get people aware of certain things that happen. But again, the age makeup to make him look younger and the dyed hair, you can still tell throughout the movie there's all these things looking at his face that he's really old, and they probably could have picked somebody else. But he's the reason why this movie is watchable, because he did such a good job in this role, Al Pacino. There may have been other actors in this movie that you've seen before, and I was really happy, though, that the lead prosecutor, against her was Mitch Pileggi, because Mitch Pileggi is a good actor from television shows like X-Files, the Stargate franchise. He's now on the Walker, Texas Ranger reboot. He had a small role in Supergirl recently. Like, I'm glad he get to be in a movie, and that movie is Al Pacino, so it's given him some credibility. But if you're not a huge Al Pacino fan and you don't really care about this woman's life, you may not want to watch it. But it was pretty good in my opinion, just because of the Al Pacino stuff. Then I've watched another Mads Mikkelsen movie that's in Danish, but this time it had subtitles. So, it didn't have to watch subtitles. It was dubbed. The other one was about him getting, drunk, and his friends seeing if they can be better at their jobs, because they're middle-aged people that are teachers and their life's not as good as they thought. This one is it's an action movie where it's like, I'm in the military, but then my wife dies unexpectedly, and I don't know how to handle the grief, and my daughter doesn't know how to handle the grief because I'm barely home. And these scientist people who are nerds, probability, and a tech person, and then another guy they're all, it basically comes like an investigative movie where they're like, was this really an accident? Was it not? Let's work together to figure out why it happened, who caused it, and the whole movie is them trying to figure out how to do it, and then there's all these consequences of them looking into things and trying to survive, and it's like a revenge type of movie, and there's some humor throughout the movie into small little parts, like they had a Christmas scene towards the end of the movie, which was interesting, and things like that. And I liked it, because it had a good amount of violence and action scenes and a lot of, espionage and investigative stuff. So it was pretty good. I would say it was way better than the last one I watched. So I definitely would suggest Riders of Justice. I'm not sure if you're the type of person who will watch every movie with subtitles because you want to hear the original acting of the voice. But yeah, that movie was the best drama I watched. I would say The American Traitor was okay. Jacob's Wife is definitely better than The Unholy. and The Gods Committee was the worst drama I watched, and Midnight and Switchgrass, I'm not considered an action movie. It's a drama. It was very, very, very boring. So if I were to say the best movie I watched this week, it was probably Riders of Justice, followed by American Traitor and Jacob's Wife, and then The Unholy. Then I would put Midnight and Switchgrass and The God Committee tied for last for the movies I watched. Not really the best week of movies, but this is what you get when you run out of movies and then these ones come in. Thanks for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observations number 87. For On the Radar Entertainment Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.